So I did my curriculum evaluation on J.J. Harris Elementary School, just like a few others in the class. So I'll try not to be too repetitive. J.J. Harris is an elementary school in Clark County, in the Clark County School District. Uh, Being an elementary school, its students are all kindergarten through fifth graders. The student body is mostly African American and Hispanic. Um, and the instructor, Mr. Warden, he is a white male in his early 30s. He actually graduated from the UGA Health and PE department or program. At J.J. Harris, they have one carpeted gymnasium for their PE classes, and each PE class typically has about two PE sessions per week. So, like has as has been talked about in the other presentations, there's not really a written curriculum for J.J. Harris. Although when I talked to Mr. Warden, he says they have one, and it's actually one that was designed by Dr. McCulloch here and some others for the whole Clark County School District. But for whatever reason, they don't really use it at J.J. Harris. So without that kind of formalized written curriculum, I they still try to stick close to the state and national standards. So because of that, their primary objective and goal is really just to help students acquire the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and confidence needed to adopt and maintain a physically active and healthy lifestyle. At J.J. Harris, Mr. Warden, one of the main ways he does this is emphasizing the concepts of muscular strength, muscular endurance, flexibility, and cardiovascular endurance. So for my curriculum evaluation, I gathered my information mainly through class observations with Mr. Warden, interviewing Mr. Warden, looking at his lesson plans, and comparing those to the state and national standards, as well as using the PCATs. So, in looking at all these sources, and looking at the actual and observing the actual classes, it did seem that all the physical and skill activities were represented accurately in class and in the lesson plans. You could see this in his when he was talking to his classes. You could also see it on various visuals within the gym. Likewise, on the whiteboard in the gym, Mr. Warden made sure that he had the various standards that were being looked at for each lesson up on the board, as well as some of like the main points of each lesson. He also made sure to use appropriate terminology in his lesson plans and in class. So I never heard or saw the word gym class used. He made sure to use PE and things like that in class and in his lesson plans. So in everything I saw and observed, everything seemed to be compatible with school norms, student needs, and perspectives of families in the community. There did not seem to me to be any bias or stereotypical perceptions in anything, which is good. I thought maybe because the student population was mostly African American and Hispanic, and there being a white teacher there, might be some like unintentional bias, but there did not appear to be any. And once again, everything seemed to be consistent with state standards and requirements. So once again, the curriculum, or really the lesson plans and the actual instruction in class, seem to be consistent in helping students acquire the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and confidence needed to adopt and maintain a physically active and healthy lifestyle. All of the class activities, all of the lessons seem to reinforce those concepts of muscular strength, muscular endurance, cardiovascular endurance, and flexibility. He really made sure to focus on those. And I think that's one of the reasons why some of the other people who have presented on J.J. Harris noticed that Mr. Warden may have talked a little too much, and that led to decreased amounts of student activity, which I'm not so sure about. I think he did an appropriate amount of talking, and there was an appropriate amount of student engagement, but I think part of that has to come from how much the different concepts were emphasized and to build up to class activities. Yeah, and as I've said, Mr. Warden made sure to check for understanding frequently, and that way kept student engagement with the concepts high. Some overall strengths of the curriculum I found to be the emphasis on these concepts in the specific lessons and the lesson plans, in the overall modules throughout the semester. And this is not so much a strength of the curriculum as much as it is the instruction from Mr. Warden, but he made sure to keep feedback specific and give lots of it, and he made sure to check for understanding pretty constantly. But there were some weaknesses. Specifically, I think the lack of the formalized written curriculum would be the biggest weakness. He really, while he says there is one, he doesn't seem to use it very much. So, and that could potentially lead to things like arbitrary lesson design, him just kind of doing whatever he wants. Not saying that he would do that, because he seemed to be a really good teacher, but that always, without that accountability from the written curriculum, there's always that potential there. And another weakness that is not necessarily as much a weakness of the curriculum as it is the instruction. I talked about this a little bit in my paper. It seemed that on a few occasions, student safety was not really taken into consideration to the degree that it should have been. And I think maybe if the written curriculum were used, maybe that would have been something in the written curriculum emphasized on more. So he would have been forced to possibly pay more attention to it. But overall, it seemed to be a pretty strong curriculum. Okay, thanks.